Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is jasmine green tea from Upton Tea, which is one of my favorite types of teas and definitely a go-to when I think I should be drinking more green tea. And because it just tastes good, at least to me. So I thought I would tie that in because it is one of my favorite teas, and November is one of my favorite months of the year. I don't know if it's my very favorite month. I think maybe the month of May, maybe. But November is in recent years not as great for me in terms of temperature because my system doesn't take cold weather the way it used to. But generally, I still like it. It's not as advanced cold as, say, December through March. And I just like November. It's always been an appealing month for me. Not usually a lot of pressure on my part. And well, this month I have someone coming over to visit, and that takes up my time, but it's a nice reason for my time to be taken up. So yeah, I kind of like this month. I also like it because on BookTube, November is nonfiction November for many, and that is the uh, invention, I guess, of a book olive who loves nonfiction, loves reading nonfiction, and loves encouraging others to read nonfiction. And that is something in which I am in total agreement because even though I do enjoy novels very much, uh, I do gravitate a lot toward nonfiction and have done so for many years. This year, actually, up until probably even up until now, when I was looking at the ratio of fiction and nonfiction, it was pretty much even. So, yeah, it's something I really love. So I thought I'd speak a little bit of my reading plans for November. Thing is, I still haven't finished a lot of my books for October, so I might be still carrying that through, but that's okay to me. October, I don't mind. I don't confine all my Victorian novels to October. I also have no problem carrying it on till December or thereabouts. So, adds a little variety. But I have a bunch of books here that either I've started already and I'm just continuing through that are nonfiction. And I also have some that I have checked out the library, haven't started yet, or any variety here. So I'll talk about some of these. And I'm definitely not going to finish all of these in November, but at least I'll make some progress. And I'll probably at least finish one or two of them. So, because I've been a very slow reader in the past year or two, and I don't know, I don't think I've stopped enjoying reading at all. I really do love it, but I've been, well, my energy levels aren't what they used to be, and my time is not what it used to be. So I'm happy to be reading at all. So I am happy to be sharing my reading uh, life with you guys. So here are the books. Try not to get too gloomy about everything. Here are the books that I either have going or plan to have going or something. Um, and in no particular order. This is a book that I got recently. You may have noticed if you've been watching my channel this year that I've been reading a lot of books about Richard III. And I just find that subject so interesting. I like the different points of view. Generally, I like it when someone's balanced. I don't like it if someone makes him out to be some kind of like the Shakespearean play, he just, complete plotting to take over the world since he was younger and, just a dastardly villain type person. I also don't like him to be made out to be a complete saint that wouldn't have done anything wrong ever in his lifetime. He was of his time, he definitely did some things, but I like just a balanced view of what happened and what could have happened. And so this is a book that I found out about not too long ago, and it's written by Matthew Lewis. Richard III, Loyalty Binds Me. I'm glad they don't have the Latin version of that title because I have a hard time reading most Latin. But that was in that translated Loyalty Binds Me was his motto, I believe, which some people might find ironic because some people say, well, he turn on his brother by, turning out his nephews and probably having them killed, possibly. But we also know that during his lifetime, he was quite supportive of his brother and did a lot of fighting for him and made a lot of sacrifices for him. So who's to say? But Matthew Lewis is a well-known Ricardian, which means someone who is pro Richard III. And he's also, I believe, he has a pretty high office in the Richard III Society. But he also has a reputation of being balanced and not too fervent, who likes to actually examine history and be fair on both sides. So I will see for myself if that's true. I have made some progress. I've already up to page, let's see, 68, and so far so good. It's still in the early days, so not much about him personally, because you have to set the stage of what happened in the Wars of the Roses, and right before his birth and during his childhood, a lot of things went on that would affect him for the rest of his life. So there you go. So I guess maybe I'll just stick with the history books first. And another book that I started in, I believe, September, because I did read a couple of books in September. I didn't really talk about it much here. I read at least one book that was Tudor related, Tudor Timber. This one I started and I didn't get pulled in very quickly, and I like Tracy Borman as a history writer. So far, I've liked everything she's written, but this book just hasn't, like I said, hasn't pulled me in, and maybe it will. So let's see, I made it up to page 40 in this one. So maybe not as fast of a read, but we shall keep trying. And this is Thomas Cromwell, The Untold Story of Henry VIII's Most Faithful Servant, yes, by Tracy Borman. He's an interesting person too. I actually put Thomas Cromwell and Richard III in a very similar category in that they both did things that I question, and especially if Richard III did some of the things that he might have, that he has been accused of doing. If so, one question I always come up with is, what could either of them have done differently that would have maybe villainized them less? But Thomas Cromwell's an interesting one to me, because he really was a good servant of the king. Henry VIII, he really did a lot for his regime and was respected very much, even when he wasn't liked. But even by some of his enemies, he was highly regarded in a lot of ways. But of course, he had quite a downfall at the end of his life, which many people did if they were close to Henry VIII. So he's an interesting person. His past is a little bit blurry, so it's fascinating to see where he comes from and how it affected him, and the fact that he was one of those people who came from a lower position in life, not exactly the lowest, but definitely not anywhere near royalty, and rose up to be Henry VIII's right-hand man, and then, of course, ended the way he did. Similarly to his, mentor, the person he worked with, Cardinal Wolsey. It's another story of its time. Staying again in that time period, this is a book that I've had out of the library for a little while. I've wanted to start, but so many books. But this is called The House of Dudley, A New History of Tudor England by Joanne Paul. So the Dudley family is an interesting family also from this time period. What I know just off the top of my head is that I'm forgetting first names right now, but one of the first Dudleys that I know of well enough is one that served under Henry VII, the first Tudor king, and he and another person whose name might have been Epsom or something, don't quote me on that, worked for Henry VII and maybe encouraged his miserly ways, made a lot of money off the people, left Henry VIII with a lot of money. But Henry VIII also, even though in the beginning he wasn't as much as the tyrannical king as we might have known him later, the impossible executor of everybody, he still wanted to maybe get in well with the people and maybe make some scapegoats. So this first Dudley might have been John, I don't know. I am forgetting first names. But anyway, I'll find out when I read the book. Anyway, he was one of the ones who were executed early in Henry VIII's reign, which is pretty messed up, but I want to read a little more about him and see if there was any good reason. The next one you hear a lot about is, I believe, his son, who actually rose pretty high after Henry VIII's death. He was kind of like of the council of Edward VI, and who was a young king and who didn't make it past his teenage years. He is known for, after Edward VI's uncles, who both executed. One of them was particularly very high in position. He became probably one of the highest men in the land under the king, and he also married off one of his sons to Lady Jane Grey. And once Henry VI died, Lady Jane Grey was made to be the queen, which was something that most people weren't really supporting. And Henry's daughter Mary was supposedly the rightful queen, so she ended up becoming queen. Whole thing. But so this Dudley also got executed, as did his son who married Jane Grey. But he had another son, I think a couple of sons, but one was called Robert, and he was well known for being close to Elizabeth I. Some people think that they were more than just friends, that they had some kind of relationship, that they maybe even had, a child together, which there's really no proof of, but it's again, one of those what if stories. Who also, though he was high in Elizabeth's estimation, and always was until his death, she even kept his last letter that was found after she died. But he had a little bit of scandal behind himself as well, because he was married to somebody who died in kind of mysterious circumstances. She seemed to have fallen down some stairs. They think she was actually terminally ill, so she might have died soon anyway. But this death kind of put him in a bad light, because it looked like he might have been responsible. It's one of those mysteries that have never been solved. So this family is another interesting, not always well regarded, but definitely an interesting family in the Tudor times. So I am actually really curious about reading that. So those are my history books. I think that's all the history books I have here. And then these are two books that I own, that I've been working through, as it were. This one I just am taking my time with. As you may have seen from a very recent video, I really am interested in the PreRaites, and I still want to see if I can somehow make it to Delaware while they still have the exhibit on exhibition, whatever you want to call it, on the Rossettis. But whether I can or not, I will always find this subject interesting, so I like to have a book about them going often enough during the year. And this one is called The PreRaites in Love. There it is. It's a little faded, by Daly. I forgot their first name. I think it's Gay Daly. I'm forgetting things. Gay Daly. Yes. So it's mainly, and actually history about the PreRaites, but mainly their love interest, their romantic life. And so far I've read the one about the Rossettis, and which was good, but it's always such a tragic story that I both find it fascinating, but also kind of sad. So, but this tea is not tragic. It's very good. So I'm making my way through that. I am now in another part of the group, and I will let you know how I go with that. And here's a book that I bought during my last trip to London. And of course, when I was there, when I was book shopping, there were some books I had in mind to purchase that I definitely knew that I wanted to look for, and some of which I didn't find, some of which I ended up buying online anyway. But one of the things I like to do, well, I especially like to do during this trip, but I probably would anytime if I ever get to visit again. I don't know how I'll visit again, no money, but if I ever get a chance to go back to England, I love going to their bookshops and looking for books that might not be so easy to find in New York or the United States or thereabouts, or definitely not in our libraries. Books that rarely will make it over to me to have easy access. So if I could find them, not always impossible. Sometimes I'll think, oh yeah, we'll never find this in New York, but oh, guess what? There it is. What? But there are surprises in this world. This world has become a lot smaller in terms of being able to locate books. However, when I find a subject that just seems very of that region, and if it's something I'm interested in, not something that I don't care about, like if it's something about I don't know, how locks are made in London as opposed to anywhere else, I don't think I'd probably get a book about that. But I love English breakfast. I love it a little too much. It's really not good for me. High cholesterol, anybody? But although my cholesterol's been pretty good lately, but still. However, I do like the subject of the full English breakfast. It is very English and, well, similar also to Ireland, but each part of the UK has slightly different specialties regionally. So this book is called Red Sauce, Brown Sauce, A British Breakfast Odyssey by Felicity Cloke. I love the cover. I even just like the color of it, the feeling of it. Ketchup and brown sauce, those are like the two main condiments, I guess, of the breakfast. So this writer. There's a whole bunch of pictures in the back of different things. You can see I started this book, obviously. And if you can look at this little label, you see someone on a bike. So this writer and I believe one friend, they are mostly biking through the UK to look at different spots that manufacture different types of foods that pertain to the English breakfast. And I thought, what a great subject. It hasn't captivated me as much as I thought it would. Some of it's good so far. Some of it is just a little bit boring to me. So I don't know if it's going to be a complete winner, but I want to keep, pushing through a little bit to see. I don't think it's going to be a DNF. I just don't think it's going to be an absolute hit with me, despite the subject. But I hope to be proven wrong. I hope that maybe it was just a little glitch and maybe just traffic. And maybe it just, at the moment when I was reading it, it wasn't holding me. That does happen sometimes. Sometimes it's just the time. Now I'm going to show you 2 library books that I checked out that are recent releases. And these are books that I just saw when I was visiting my local library in the city. And I was picking up maybe another book and thought, oh, maybe I'll have a look at the new releases and see if there's anything good. And I usually pick up some things that either I'll read or I'll say, why did I take this out? But these are both subjects that I find interesting, and at least one of them I think I'll read. So this one is called Literary Cats by Judith Robinson and Scott Pack. So this is exactly what it says it is. It's a book about cats in literature. I've read a bit about Edgar Allan Poe so far because when I took this book out, I was able to go to Central Park and relax a little bit and sit in my version of nature, I guess, and look at this book a little bit. So that's so far the main subjects, but there's going to be probably a lot more. Lewis Carroll, obviously, Alice in Wonderland, the Cheshire Cat. There's another person, I forgot who. Anyway, but I'll talk about it when I've read from it further. Definitely cats have been featured in literature for a very long time. I have read a number of fictional books, that's for sure, that have had cats as a main character. And so I like books about books, and I like books about cats. So it should be a hit for me, but we'll see. I also like the color of the green. And this one's another book that's a nature book that I haven't really read a lot of nature writing in recent months. And I used to read a lot of it. And I want to get back into that habit because it's a great subject. But I don't know, maybe I think it was really resonating with me around the pandemic time. I think maybe because I was so removed from so much nature at the time. I don't know what it was. Although I was reading books before that, so maybe a combination of factors has put me in less of an interest in it. But I want to change that. And so when I saw this book, I thought, well, maybe this is a start. We'll see. This is by, I believe it's pronounced Hannah Bjorges, and this is Secret Life of the City. That how nature thrives in the urban wild. I thought that was really up my alley because I live in an urban environment. And like I was saying, I go to Central Park. I see things, not just rats, not just sparrows, not just pigeons, but you see all kinds of things. You see ducks and you see turtles and geese. And if you look really carefully, you find hawks. And of course, all kinds of greenery and other types of plants. So you can see some recognizable wildlife in this picture. I think I see a bat in the bottom there. Maybe, is that a seagull? And I guess I'll find out what the rest of these things are. This looks like either a raven or a crow. I know in my neighborhood lately, there's been a couple of crows that I'll hear every once in a while. So they definitely exist. So I like the idea of this book, so I do hope to get to it. And that's all for now. I'm really hoping to make some progress this month. I feel not guilty because you can't help some circumstances, but I just feel like I haven't had enough to share with you all about my reading. I know I still read more than the average person, but I'd like to read more. And we'll see how it goes this month, and I will keep you posted. If you like talking about books such as these, of course I love talking about novels as well, and will continue to do so, but especially in November, if you like talking about history, nature writing, food writing, etc., feel free to subscribe and like this video as well. And if you have any thoughts on these books, or if you want to share books that you plan on reading this month, please comment. And And that is all for now. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day. Bye.